A very good evening to you and welcome to Rwanda Television News with me, Sam Kalisa. The government of the Central African Republic says the participation of citizens in the Sunday's presidential and parliamentary elections was beyond expectations, while observers including the UN mission in the country described the polls as a democratic victory to citizens who took part in it. Ethan Tashobia kickstarts tonight's bulletin with this report.
Just one day after December 27th general elections in the Central African Republic, life has returned to normal. In the capital Bangui, residents say the situation has been calm and peaceful, allowing them the opportunity to go about with their daily routine.
I
can say that everything is going well so far. Before elections, everyone was worried, but there is a bit of freedom and everyone is busy with their work.
Oui, très bien, on peut faire notre activité.
L'activité marche bien, les clients viennent acheter. Et la façon dont on achète, on sent que c'est pas...
Business is going steadily and we are getting clients. Judging by how people are shopping, there is no issue at all. The situation has stabilized.
During a post-election press briefing, government officials, including Defense Minister, Law Government Minister and Internal Security Minister, all commended the overwhelming participation of citizens in the electoral process, despite prior security threats from the rebel under the Coalition for Patriots for Change, CPC, who had threatened to disrupt elections. The chairperson of the Central African Republic Electoral Commission says that at least 75% of the registered voters managed to cast their votes across the country, despite the security threats.
Despite the threats, citizens resolved to go to polling stations and vote for their respective preferred candidates, which is a sign of national pride and patriotism. Regarding voters' turnout, we cannot announce it now because we are still waiting for the results from the provincial tally centers, but I can confirm that at least 75% of registered voters managed to cast their votes. Regarding the candidates who withdrew from the race but their names were on the ballots, you all know the Constitutional Court made the decision to hold elections and we had already dispatched election materials to polling stations. The Electoral Commission was not able to make last-minute changes on ballots. We are still waiting for the court's decision. All complaints have been sent to the Constitutional Court as an independent body, just like us, to make a final legal decision on some of these cases filed. Ours is a technical duty. They are also a judicial body.
C'est une institution indépendante et comme nous sommes une institution technique, eux ils sont une institution juridictionnelle, donc nous n'avons pas les mêmes missions.
Denise Brown, the Deputy Special Representative for the United Nations Mission in the Central African Republic, Minnesota, described the polls in the country as a sign of democratic victory to citizens who took part in the elections.
Citizens have already won in yesterday's election. The message is clear. The role of the UN has not changed. We will continue to protect civilians and leadership organs, ensure peace and safeguard the entire electoral process.
The electoral body in the Central African Republic says that 800 out of 5,408 polling stations across the country did not vote on Sunday. Elections were held in 14 of the 16 prefectures or districts across the country, which represents 87.5% of the country's voting population. Reporting for RwandaTV News, Ethan Tashobia.
Thank you very much, Ethan, for that report. Now, the National Electoral Commission says that by March 5th, 2021, all districts in Rwanda will have new executive leaders, save for the 3 districts that form the capital, Kigali. This is after NEC announced the electoral calendar for local government leaders at district level, National Youth Council, women leaders and representatives for persons with disabilities. The Executive Secretary of the National Electoral Commission, Charles Munyaneza, joins us in studio via phone call to tell us more about this electoral calendar and how elections will be held amidst the COVID-19 prevention guidelines. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Charles.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
We understand elections for grassroots leaders have been extended for over 2 weeks compared to the initial calendar published in October. What is the latest now, and what does it mean to the entire process of voting for local government leaders, especially district executives?
Thank you very much. As we announced some time back, we've got elections next year. January, the process starts, but re-election takes place on 20th February, but also 22nd, and as you've just said, last election shall be held on 5th of March.
Right.
So we've been holding a number of preparations in line with this. Let me remind viewers that this is the 5th elections that we are going to have after the policy decentralization that started in 2020. So we are thinking of these elections, and we, as you said, we have started preparations, but also extended the process, taking into consideration the prevailing conditions that we have to take into consideration in terms of managing these elections, but also in the context of COVID-19.
All right.
So first of all, we shall be receiving candidatures from 11th of January to 22nd of the same month. Thereafter, we shall be having the first elections, I was saying, on 20th of February. 22nd of February, we shall be having elections for councillors, for districts except in Kigali.
Right.
And the last elections for district mayors and vice mayors shall be conducted on the 5th of March. So we are doing this, taking into consideration the prevailing conditions, and we have put in place a number of measures to hold these elections, but also preventing the spread of this COVID-19 epidemic. One of the measures that we have been putting in place, one is to make sure that we observe the existing regulations, making sure that whoever comes to vote wears a mask, has to wash the hands, but also we are putting sanitizers in all polling stations across the country. But also thinking of introducing technology in these elections in a way that we are going to make sure that as we update our voting register,
right,
people will have to register but also verify their voter registration status online using their phones, using their computers, but also we shall also put in place the sensitization, mobilization measures using IT, not necessarily meeting people in large groups. We're also thinking of people submitting their candidatures. Originally, we used to have people carrying their papers to our staff, but this time we are thinking of people submitting their papers via internet, such that we receive but also respond on the receipt of these papers. And of course, we are putting in place measures to make sure that we increase the number of polling stations, polling centers, to make sure that we reduce the number of voters in one polling station. So we are thinking of having these elections to make sure that they are successful as ever, but also making sure that they are not a cause to the spread of this pandemic. And as we are saying, by 5th of March, leave alone the executive committees of districts, as we have been saying, but also we shall have had elections at village level on 20th of February. On 22nd, we shall have elections for councillors. And in between, we shall be having, of course, elections for national councils, for people with disabilities,
right,
women, youth, and we hope and we are foreseeing a successful election, notwithstanding this current pandemic, because we are dealing with, we are working with different stakeholders in the process to make sure that this is a success.
Just you talked about it. We're going into these elections as the country and the whole world is battling the COVID-19 pandemic. But we are wondering how far or at what percentage are you with implementing these guidelines that will guide people throughout the election process? And are you confident that by the time the election comes, will all these measures be in place?
explains why we have decided to extend some of these activities for at least 2 weeks, to make sure that we reach out to the population, of course, with the consultation and working with other groups. For instance, we are working with the National Women Council, we are working with the National Youth Council, the people with disabilities, we are working with the media. So we are beginning a program that is intended to reach out to the people in the villages, using especially the media, using social media for those that use it. And we are confident that by the time we reach these elections, of course taking into consideration the existing regulations in place, social distancing, wearing masks, etc., we are thinking that we shall have a successful election, especially that we are thinking of increasing the polling stations and polling rooms.
Right.
We've been using around 16,000 polling rooms all over the country. Mm-hmm. Right now, we are putting in place around 17,000 to make sure that we decongest people that come to vote in one polling station. And as I was saying, we are mobilizing, we are sensitizing, working with the local government, working with the media, and in days to come, in 1 month or 2 months to come, we shall be, of course, making sure that everybody understands this, and we hope by the time we end these elections, it will be a success, and we shall have avoided having this pandemic as we move forward, and as we move forward in making sure that we continue the process of decentralization and making sure that we decentralize but also democratize our local governments.
Absolutely. But yes, we can say that there are hopes, but no one can just predict what is in the future. Won't the extended electoral calendar contradict with the laws governing the elections of local government leaders?
No. Setting these dates, polling dates, we've been in consultation with the Minister of Local Government. We are considering in the law, as you are saying, we have got the organic law on elections. We have also got the law governing these local governments. So we have been consulting all these legal instruments. And absolutely there will be no contradiction because looking at the past elections, we had the such election in 2016. And the current leaders started their offices early March. So that's why we are saying, taking into consideration the 5th of March, where we shall have elections for these district executive committees, there will be no contradiction on when their mandates end and when their office mandates start. So we are absolutely looking at all these things, and we are working closely with Minaloc, and we are working closely with other instances that are charged with making sure that there is a smooth transition. Right. By the way, the law states that while we are organizing these elections, especially when we start receiving candidatures, which is supposed to begin on 11th of Jan, as I was saying, the current leaders, especially the executive committees, the councillors are supposed to leave their office. And the law says that during that transition, the executive secretaries of districts, but also sectors, are the ones who will be in charge of running these local government entities. So the law says that these people will be in office and running these district entities and sector entities until when the elected leaders assume their offices. So there will be nothing that will interfere with the management of these local government entities until when these people are sworn in. And we are working with everybody concerned in this process to make sure that we have elections, but also nothing is interrupted in terms of this local governance.
Right. And finally, what will happen with the city of Kigali, which is currently governed under new local government structure that saw mayors being replaced by executive administrators?
Yes, as you know, last year, 2019, there was a reform in the city of Kigali, especially at the level of districts, but also at the level of the city of Kigali, where we no longer have councils at district levels, but we have such a council and executive committee at the city of Kigali. Right. Meaning that these people elected last year have a mandate of 5 years. And therefore, as we talk of these elections that are to take place next year, in Kigali we shall not have elections for councillors at district level. We shall not have elections for councillors at Kigali city level. Nor shall we have executive committees at city of Kigali level. So we shall have only elections from village level up to sector level in the city of Kigali.
Right.
And the rest shall continue as stated in the law that brought about this reform at the city of Kigali, but also at the 3 districts in Kigali city. So for next year, we are talking of having elections in 27 districts at district level.
Right.
And of course, as Kigali is a decentralized entity, we shall not have these elections next year as the leaders who are elected last year still have their mandate as they are elected for a 5-year mandate.
Right. Thank you very much, Charles, for your time, and have a good evening.
Thank you very much, and thank you for hosting us.
All right. Yeah, moving forward, people that seek medical services and those admitted in hospitals are concerned that they may be infected with COVID-19 due to the fact that patients' beds are close to each other and the visitors and caregivers who frequently visit hospitals to see their patients. Gloria Mutesi has the story.
People that seek hospital services, including patients admitted, and their caregivers say that due to the close proximity of the beds, due to the small size of the hospital wards, it is difficult to comply with the COVID-19 control guidelines. As patients, we need caregivers, and because we are all together in one place, because if we were 3 patients in this room and each has their own caregiver, then we are 6 people, which becomes a challenge because there's lack of social distancing. We don't even wear our masks appropriately, which exposes us to risks of getting infected in case one of us has it. I gave birth here, but the beds at the health center are not enough because at that time when I was giving birth, we shared the same bed with another mother. So as you can see, the beds aren't enough. We need more so that we don't get infected. Some health centers and hospital officials say that due to the small size of the buildings they work in, they are trying to reduce the number of patient beds to prevent overcrowding. What we've been trying to do is reduce the number of beds in the hospital to avoid overcrowding, as well as the caregivers and visitors not getting close to the patients and not exceeding more than 1. The reduction in beds sometimes makes it impossible for them to accommodate all patients. When necessary, some refer them to other nearby clinics. However, there are some hospitals that have tried to partition wards and separating patient rooms so that there is limited exposure of patients. An example is at the Kachiro Hospital. Patients say that this is a solution to the overcrowding and will help prevent the spread of the pandemic. Before you would find the general ward full of different people sleeping where the patients are sleeping too. But today, it's all different. Every patient has their own room and they don't meet with others. You're able to visit them in privacy while protecting yourselves from the virus. Kachiro Hospital Director General says that they've decided to put every bed in its own room to prevent the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic among the patients and doctors that is becoming prevalent in hospitals. We realize that patients are getting infected from hospitals as well as doctors. So we wanted to keep our patients safe to avoid patient-to-doctor transmission because we can never know who has the virus. 95% of them are asymptomatic and they spread it to the others. So we've started to partition the patient rooms using boards so they wouldn't take up much space so that people don't meet up with each other. And doctors keep the patients away from each other, with only doctors going into the patients' rooms. There are 509 health centers and 38 district hospitals in Rwanda providing medical care for both inpatients and outpatients.
Thank you very much, Gloria Mutesi, for the report. And straight from that, we go to the current COVID-19 figures and status in the country. Today, total number of tests, 719,482 tests of COVID-19 plus 2,549 new tests that were conducted today. Number of cases, total 8,021 plus 51 new COVID-19 cases today. The number of recoveries, 6,339 plus 50 new recoveries today. The number of deaths, 75 people have so far died of COVID-19 plus 1 new death today. The number of active cases, 1,607. The test positivity rate was at 2%. Over all the 51 COVID-19 cases got today, 10 were in Kigali, 15 in Huye district, 10 in Rusizi district, 6 in Rutsiro district, 5 in Rubavu district, 3 in Nyamasheke district, Nyamagabe district 1, and Ngororero 1. And of course, our condolences to the family of a 77-year-old man who passed away in Kigali, signed Ministry of Health. Moving forward, a slaughterhouse in Rubavu district worries about a shortage of cows on the market during festive holidays. This has fueled a rise in prices as they had planned to slaughter about 400 cows across the district in a bid to cater for the growing market, including neighbors in the DRC town of Goma who often come to buy meat in Gisenyi. Martina Abera has the details.
At the Gisenyi slaughterhouse, we found the staff slaughtering beef and will also deliver it to their customers from all over Rubavu district, as well as those from Goma in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Every day, between 50 to 60 cows are slaughtered, especially during these days of COVID-19, but under normal circumstances, more than 100 cows were slaughtered. During festivities, demand for meat shoots high, and for that reason, 2 modern slaughterhouses operating in the Kama Kopedu district say they are getting ready to satisfy meat lovers, where they are planning to slaughter between 200 and 400 cows. Jean-Claude Hakizimana is the president of Gisenyi slaughterhouses and says they are preparing to slaughter 200 cows in order to satisfy the meat market. I can't currently know the kilos of 200 cows. They are past 30 tons at most. Those who work in these slaughterhouses express concerns that cows have started being scarce during these holidays, causing the prices to rise. The change is believed to be due to rising prices, as the price of meat has risen to between 400 francs and 500 francs per kilogram, and those who are hoping to share with their family members testify to how hard it is to get a cow to slaughter. Normally, we would be able to afford 2 cows. Now we can only be able to get 1. So even the percentage of shares reduces. In these festivities, the prices of cows has risen and now it is too expensive as opposed to before. In this regard, the president of the Kanzenze cattle market operating in Rubavu district and the one who supplies between 250 to 300 cows a week, Kabirizi Innocent, explains that he cannot do anything about the scarcity of cows in the market. He advises those who buy it to look in different markets in the regions so as to access them. If the cows become scarce here in Kanzenze, on Thursday they can be able to buy meat from the Nyabihu market. The problem with the lack of cows in various markets is due to the fact that there are a lot of buyers who want it because of the holidays, where bulls are actually going for 1.5 million Rwandan francs. Martina Abera, RTV News.